All right, welcome to episode 2 of the Warrior Dad podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Wickersham, founder of the Warrior Dad Experience. Excited to dive in to why an ethos is so important. But before I get there, a couple of housekeeping measures just to know about the cadence of when episodes come out. If you're new to the podcast, they're going to come out Friday mornings at 5 a.m. Eastern. Why Fridays? Well, you've had the whole week. If you haven't got the progress, you haven't got the consistent effort, action that you want in your life, I want to feed your mind with a seed, let it grow over the weekend, then you're taking action for the next week, right? That is the reason behind Fridays at 5 a.m. Eastern. Be sure to mark your calendar. Every week I'll be dropping an episode, as well as I'll be interviewing some authors, some speakers, some coaches as well, all about us dads. So let's dive into episode 2. Why is an ethos so important? If you don't know what an ethos is, it's the culture, it's the environment, it's how you speak, it's how you operate on a different daily basis. And I'm a huge fan of special ops, Navy SEALs specifically, and they have a creed, they have an ethos, they have an environment, they have a culture that they live by, as well as I'm huge into team sports. Used to coach both of my sons in football and basketball, loved playing team sports growing up. Every sports team has a culture, has an environment, has an ethos, and many times those successful sports teams aren't the ones that have the most talented individual players. It's the teams, it's the special ops units that have this camaraderie, have this connectedness, have this ethos that they operate day in and day out by that makes them that successful. And I want you dads to think about this starting today and over the weekend. What's my ethos? What are my values? What are my virtues? How do I want to show up each and every day? And I'm going to share 3 that I strive to embody, 3 that are strengths for me. And that should be another factor as you're thinking about it. We need to figure out what our strengths are, and we need to lean into them because they're going to light you up. Number 1 for me, energy. Energy is my number 1 value, virtue, how I operate on a daily basis. I do it in my house with my sons and my wife. I do it at the gym when I'm working out with buddies. I do it on a run. When I've got a buddy who just did a 103-mile ultra trail race, ran the last 22 miles. I gave him energy for him to get through that end of the race. And energy, zest, the virtue of zest, is that number 1 virtue correlated with us flourishing in life, right? And it makes sense when you think about it. If we want to operate, we want to crush things personally, we want to crush things professionally, we want to be satisfied in both of those areas. Balance, I think, is a myth. We want to be satisfied in both of those areas. You've got to operate at a high energy level. We try and manage time. Time is going by regardless, second after second, minute after minute, hour after hour. I argue if you manage your energy better, if you attack a task, a project, as if your hair's on fire and you're sprinting towards a lake, you're going to finish that so much quicker. So energy, you got to dial it in. That's what is core to who I am. You can feel it probably through me speaking in this podcast episode. And I do it various ways. I teach other dads in the Warrior Dad Experience how to dial in their energy. Control those bookends. What's that last 30 minutes? What's the first 15 minutes of your day look like? Stacking wins, feeling that progress, feeling that momentum. For me personally, it's moving throughout the day. Got a plank challenge going on with class 3 in the experience. I'm doing a plank for a minute, 10 pull-ups every hour as I record this episode, the day I'm recording it. You know what that gives me? That gives me a tremendous amount of energy to operate from. Standing up. I have a stand-up desk. Do I take times where I take my laptop to the kitchen table and sit if I'm writing some emails, writing some content? Absolutely. But the majority of my day, I'm standing. When I am presenting, speaking to a company, when I'm coaching on a call, When I have a prospect call with a fellow dad interested in the experience, I'm always standing. Cultivating our energy, getting proper sleep, nutrition, movement, breathing, all these factors add in to that energy, value, virtue that is number one on my list in my ethos, in my environment, what I want to create, what I want to have around me. Number two, and this goes into leading to more energy, consistency. Day in and day out, taking no days off. Consistency, I feel, is the ultimate force multiplier in anything we're doing. We can have energy, we can have focus, we can have time. That's inside that parentheses. If you don't have that multiplier, that C outside of that equation, you're not going to get anywhere. So many dads and men struggle with starting something for 3, 5, maybe a week, and then they give up. They go back to their old crappy habits. And it's the start and stop process that, quite honestly, is exhausting. Why? When you start, you have to use activation energy. Many times, activation energy requires more energy than if you just stayed consistent. And staying consistent doesn't mean you have to hammer let's say in the workout field, you don't have to hammer a 60-minute weightlifting or HIIT workout. Have a dad right now going through class 3 of the experience, had his 3rd child while he's in the program. I said to him the other night, I said, from a workout perspective, just get 1 push-up. Keep that chain, keep that streak consistent, keep that consistency going moving forward. And it's tremendously, tremendously powerful for you. If you're tracking it, you're going to be more consistent. The issue with why we stop so many times is we don't know when we're going to be successful. But if you believed, if you held that true to your heart and your soul, that I'm going to get there no matter what, I'm fully committed in being consistent day in, day out, eventually, the beautiful thing is you will achieve what you want to achieve. The issue, and Simon Sinek said it in his book, The Infinite Game, he said, the issue is we just don't know when we're going to be successful. So many times we give up before we get there. So think about it. Energy, number one value in my ethos, in my culture that I work to cultivate. Add in consistency. Now I'm moving back and forth in both of those factors, and they're feeding off each other. Just had a guy through LinkedIn Messenger the other day say he's a dad in his early 30s. He's got 2 young kids. He says, it's just par for the course. I got no energy. I shared with him, I'm 48 years young and I have more energy than I've ever had in my life. But it's because I'm intentional in how I eat, sleep, move, how I rest, how I breathe, all these factors that add into each other. So energy is number 1. Number 2 is consistency. And number 3, and this is probably the biggest thing I have seen in dads that have jumped into the experience. I actually just had a conversation with a dad who expressed the same thing today. Accountability. We don't have accountability like we had when we were younger, when we become an adult. Think about it. I come from team sports. My kids are in team sports. When were you at your best? Dads, ask yourself that. When were you at your best? I know when I was in high school playing team sports, I remember specifically my football team, junior year of high school. I was the only junior that started on the offense on the varsity side. They had all seniors, huge offensive line, supposed to be dominant, supposed to win the league. They didn't. Reason? They were partying too much. Coach knew it. Coach found it out. End of that year, after Thanksgiving football game that we traditionally had with a rival, he had all of us who were going to be from juniors into seniors sign a pledge for 1 year. Thanksgiving to Thanksgiving, you're not touching alcohol or anything related to that. No alcohol, no drugs, no cigarettes, anything like that. You all signed it. My senior year team, which was less talented than that team the year before, had a better record. Accountability. We were all accountable for what we signed, what we pledged we were going to do, and we were all connected. Well, we go through college, we get released to the wild as adults. Yeah, maybe we have a little accountability at work. Maybe it's just a little accountability so you don't get fired. But to crush it professionally, to crush it personally, we have zero accountability. So I show up, and when I say I'm going to do something, I do it. And why is that so important? Well, imagine your mind is always listening to what you say you're going to do, even if you just think it. And when you don't do that, the mind starts to develop this pattern that says, hey, Jeff just isn't going to do what he's going to do, what he says he's going to do. So rather than help us in our process of chasing our dreams, goals, and missions, our mind fights against us. Doesn't get in line, doesn't say, this is what he's committed to. Let's figure it out. Let's get him there. It goes the other way. Those are the three values: energy, consistency, and accountability. I operate with. That is my ethos. That's my environment. That's my culture. Anybody comes in contact with me, whether it's a friend, whether it's my family, my extended family, coaching clients, dads in the Warrior Dad experience, energy, consistency, and accountability. So I challenge each one of you dads listening and watching. How are you going to operate? Be intentional. Take 30 minutes and think about, what do you value? What do you need to embody more of? And how will you show up starting tomorrow? Right? It's going to be the weekend tomorrow. Perfect opportunity. Work isn't there. Here's how I'm going to show up Saturday and Sunday. Then you already have momentum. You're going to be on day 3 as you start next week. So take some time, be intentional today. Think about how you want to show up, what values, what virtues you want to embody. Because here's the other piece. You set the tone for your family. You set the tone for your children. You are the tip of the spear. They are watching you, and they are absorbing much more what you do versus what you say. So you start to change that, and you do it with your legacy, your next generations and generations to come in mind. That's a powerful, powerful place to come from. So take time, think about it, be intentional, and then start acting that way tomorrow. Start creating that ethos, that environment that you want to live in and you want to share with your kids. I appreciate you listening. I appreciate you watching. Dare to be uncommon. Love League legacy. Create a legendary day. And I'll talk to you soon.